abilities, what I'm going to focus on is the grading. This is where I tend to get most of my questions on my syllabus. So you'll notice that participation, classroom activity gets a lot of weight, as does analysis. Quizzes and exams, if you're a really good exam taker, a really good quiz taker, this doesn't necessarily work to your advantage. This is not a me lecturing you and you regurgitate kind of course, right? So the most important thing to remember about my grading system is that it's a point system. It's not an average. Right? So you're not going to get an 85 on this exam and a 37 on that paper and take an average. You're just going to accumulate a certain number of points, and once you accumulate those points, every assignment will have a point value associated with it, and once you get to a certain number of points, you will have the grade that you want. If you don't get 600 points or more in the semester, you will get an F. If you get more than 940 points, you will get an A, and everywhere in between. If you are used to the 100-point grading system, you will notice that you divide these numbers by 10 and you get the rough normal equivalent for grades. Right? It's really straightforward. Now, some things on Blackboard will give you a percentage, and sometimes those percentages, like on the journals, for instance, there's one grade for the entire semester in there on journals. Don't look at the percentage; just look at the whole number. Every reading analysis has a maximum of 20 points. You get 180 points in the course of a semester. If you have 20 out of 180 after 1 week, well, then you're doing really well, despite what the percentage might suggest, right? So look at the total number of points that you have accumulated, not the average stuff that's generated by Blackboard. I don't use that. I don't even see that stuff, so it might give that to you and your, but don't pay any attention to that, right? Look at the number of points. Right? And then you go back and you say, okay, well, class participation is 130 points. That's pretty big, pretty important. Discussion leadership. So again, there's more class participation. Check-in journal, class presentations. Reading analysis is done in the journal. We'll get to that in a minute. Papers are the most. There's 3 papers that you'll do, so they'll be they aren't actually 70 points apiece. They add up to. They get more valuable as the semester goes along. Terms, quizzes. Every week there are a list of terms and there is a quiz. This is really valuable to know. You can take the quiz as often as you want to get the score you want. If you have 100%, right, you've gotten all the answers correct in all the quizzes for the semester, you get a 100-point bonus, and you'll notice that the final exam, all the exams are worth 100 points. So if you get all the quizzes, you'll get the equivalent of all the exams worth of bonus points. So then the exams become bonus points for themselves, right? So the point on the quizzes is to get a certain level of just sort of baseline facts that we can talk about. It's really hard to do analysis if you don't have any understanding of the facts. We want to do critical thinking for sure, but we need to have some of the facts to be able to even assess anything, right? So that's what the quizzes are there for, is just to make sure that we have some baseline level of understanding of the facts. I'm not going to spend a lot of time harping on those things. They'll come from the conversation. What I would suggest is that you go to weekly material, and in week 1 you will have class notes, etc. There will be a class list, a term list, and I would look at that before the class starts, and bring it with you even, print it out and bring it with you, and take notes right there, because we will talk about those things. When you're doing reading assignments and watching videos that are assigned, you may want to look, you might want to have that handy to make sure that you will be able to take notes on those things. We won't, if you look up, if you're trying to take the quiz and you just look up globalism on Wikipedia while you're taking the quiz, you probably won't get the right answer because we're going to use a relatively finite definition here in this course. So the globalism, the definition that you might find on Wikipedia, might not be the answer you're looking for. So take notes and pay attention to the conversation, right? Okay. Blackboard, in weekly material, you'll see in week 1 the first essay guidelines there. It's not due until October, but the guidelines are there for you to start on at your convenience. So there'll be 3 books that are the prompts for, or that are going to be the primary material for those 3 essays. The Other America by Michael Harrington, Silent Spring by Carson, and Rachel Carson, and Devaluing America by William Bennett. Those will be handed out, the assignments will be handed out as we go. Participation, really important in my classes. I don't want a lecture. I mean, I can certainly talk for as long as you'd like, but I would prefer that we are engaged in a conversation. I think that's the best way for you to really absorb the material and be able to work with it. So pay attention to participation. There's lots of opportunity for participation, and I'm a pretty tough grader when it comes to points, but there's lots and lots of opportunities to earn points in my class, so it shouldn't stress anybody out at all. Journal entries, there's 2 kinds of journal entries. One, the check-in journal. I just want a weekly 2 or 3 sentences from you on how things are going. What did you get out of the class this week? How is it? Are you struggling with anything? Is a really important thing to tell me. Anything getting in your way of succeeding in class, and that doesn't have to be from class. It can be things that are going on outside that you're struggling through. Maybe I have a resource or something like that. Journal entries are also being used for reading analyses. Reading analyses are called reading analyses, but they're really assignment analyses. So any of the material that I give you for the week, you should, before Sunday, do an analysis. These analyses are 3 to 5 paragraphs in Blackboard, in introductory material, the rubrics. There's a reading analysis rubric, there's a participation rubric, and there's also examples of excellent reading analyses. So both of these, you'll notice, are between 3 and 5 paragraphs. If you look at the rubric, you'll notice that more than 5 paragraphs is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for 3 to 5 paragraphs. Again, being concise, being organized, and being thoughtful is what matters. It's not being long-winded. You'll see essay guidelines added there as we go. The first essay is already in there. Okay. It is the 30th or the 31st of August will be week 2 for this class, right? And so you should have these materials reviewed before week 2 begins on your class session, right? So you have required material and you have suggested material. Suggested material is important. It's suggested that you read this. I don't expect everybody to read all of this stuff, but I'll generally have a good resource if you want to get into it, if you look ahead a little bit and you want to read some good stuff, or you want to go back before the end of the semester and go back. There's some good stuff. You will also have the terms quiz for the week will be found in suggested material. Yes, that's a covert way of me getting you to look at suggested material, because it'll always be at the bottom. Right? Now, week 2 has a whole bunch of stuff, so this is an example of, I certainly don't expect you to read all these things before next week. But if you looked at one of them, that would be great. I love to hear you say, you know, I was reading this thing, the thing Obama on Americanism, and I thought that would be great to hear in class. Okay, so if you look at suggested material, you get some opportunities for that. Class notes will be filled in as we go. Obviously, the first thing that should be in there for each week is the terms for the week, and then you'll also get any notes that slideshow stuff that I do, I will put in there as well. Okay. So introductory materials, syllabus, basic course concepts. This video will be under About Bill, or no, it will be under syllabus. About Bill. One of the things, check this out. You have help. I just want to really encourage people to go to office hours. It's a great way to get help. It's a great way to know your professors, but also a really good way for them to know you and to give you the benefit of the doubt when you need it, because sometimes you will. All right. Okay. And the last thing on Blackboard, announcements. I will use announcements fairly regularly, not necessarily consistently, but fairly regularly, and those will generally be sent to you in email, but they will also be here in announcements. So if you got an email from me for the class and you can't find it, or you're not going to your email, you're already in Blackboard, something like that, you can always come here to the announcements. And it's worth looking when this will be your landing page, so it's worth looking at announcements to see if there's anything that was announced since you last looked. Okay, that is all. I will see you in class and not talk about syllabi.